Okay, well, good morning, my friends. Today is April 7th. It's a little bit before 9 a.m. And here we go. I'm just going to take a moment to share the link out to my friends, and we will start the fun today. So let's see how it goes. I'm going to just pull up the link, and I'm going to start sharing it out. It's just going to take one more moment. So how is everybody doing today? I hope you're having a good day. And it's going to be a little bit of a rough ride today, I think. So, I looked briefly at the intro to the market today, and it's not looking good. There's a little bit of red all over the board. And so this is going to be one of the concerns for today. Probably should have sent out this link before I started talking because, you know, all right, here we go. So now, boom, share and share. So that's now up on my status. Okay. And we're going to now share this out further, wider, and let's see here. And we're going to send this out a couple more places. Hold on. We're almost ready. I apologize for the delay. You can just hang out and watch me. It's fine. That's fine. ESP. Okay, here we go. Okay. Very good. So let's take a look at the markets and see what's happening today. So far, it looks like the indexes are down about 0.5%. That looks like the, the Russell, the Dow, and the S&P. Bitcoin is leading the way down. It's down 2%, or about 68,000. Started at 70,000 yesterday. I was hopeful that it was going to continue holding that 70,000, but it did not. Silver is down about 1% to $72 an ounce. Gold is at $46.79. It's kind of holding flat. Platinum is down to $19.50. So platinum had been holding 2,000, struggling to get above there, and it doesn't look like it is. Interestingly, natural gas is a little bit up today, as well as oil, just a little bit up, 2%. Here, what's that to you? 2%, nothing, right? Just kidding. So anyway, 2% up on oil, 1% up on natural gas. Natural gas, I've been saying, if you see it at the level of the 2.75, 2.77, which I have marked out on my screen next to me, you would, I keep telling you, buy over there, and then, that's where you sell. And so anyway, we don't need that. Need that. Okay. Now, let's see. We're going to start pulling up some inside look at the different levels. We'll start with the S&P. Looking in at the 15-minute chart, and you can see over the past several sessions, so we have at least a week's worth of information. You can see we've been sitting here in a very narrow channel. We've been trading between 6,600 on the low side. On the high side, 6,657 on the ES. That's not a very big range. It's pretty tight. So even though we're down 0.5%, that's not a lot. So I would see today on the S&P the range is looking around 6,600 and back to 6,657. I don't think anything different than the last several sessions. Translating that to SPY, I think you have on the low side, you have 654.23 as a target. Then there's a big value area gap below there all the way to 650. But I don't think we're going to go there. Hope not. But I mean, that's the potential. So 650, 654.58 is a level. And then on the high side, you have 658. But it would really take something big, I think, to move it. And we've really not been moving much. We've been trading sideways in this channel. So I would expect us to pull back a little bit more today, just based on the news. And then, we can continue pushing back up. But it's going to follow this until we have some more resolution with the war. I did hear today, that Trump said that he was giving a final ultimatum, and that was going to hopefully push the Iran war done. Otherwise, he was going to blow up the bridges and whatever. But I think I think some of that might be posturing. I don't know. So what we're looking at is really just continued news-driven events about the war. I'm looking over to see if there's any sort of news. Durable goods orders came in, but nothing exciting. We weren't really expecting anything. That they were down about 1% in February, down 0.5% in January, revised. So I don't really see something huge there. The actual was 1.4, I said, but the forecast was 1.2. So it's a little bit more than I think, lower than they expected, but that might be a good thing because that might affect interest rates. I have no idea. We do have Fed Williams is speaking this morning. Then at 12:30 and 1:30, we have Fed Goolsbee speaking. So around 12:30 to 1:30, we might see some more volatility, but probably not. I don't think he's going to say anything that's going to move the markets too much. Okay, let's go back and take a look now at the Qs. Let's look at NASDAQ. And so for the NASDAQ, I am looking, again, the sideways travel. I'm looking for our low to be in the 2400 range, like 24,100s. 24,1, to be more specific, I would say 24,130. I'm going to say a little bit lower, 24,123, right? That's the little end of the volume there. And it continues all the way across here. High side of the NASDAQ, do you think we're going to hit it? I don't know, right? Look at this 15-minute trend. It's kind of down, so not very confident. The 1 hour is, generally what I would look at more. And if we're looking at the 1 hour, again, I'm still at the 1, 2, 3 level on the bottom, and on the top, we're at the 24. Let's call it 24,409. The nice thing is the hourly is still, all three channels are pointing up, right? So that is a good thing. And, but when you're trading, if you're day trading, I'm looking closer to the, 15-minute chart or something like that so that I get a little bit closer view. Let's look at QQQ. Same thing, 582 on the bottom. We haven't changed anything else. 587.50 on the top. It's going to be the same thing. So we have the big value area here that we're just trading inside. And I think a lot of that has to do, like if you look at it, it probably has to do with NVIDIA. So NVIDIA has been holding steady. And I think that's been helping the NASDAQ at least. And the S&P. We do have, so now this is where I think we're going to deviate from, let's say, in the Dow. Also Dow sideways, it's the very same picture. the whole market, I think, I'm pretty sure is going to look the same. The Dow, we're looking on the bottom over here for support around 46,594. And then on the top, we're looking, around 47,000 on the Dow. If we could break that 47,000, we can then maybe go back to the 50,000 level, but that's going to take the end of the war. And, if you look at industrials, I think that's what's going to show us what's happening with the Dow, right? So you have that same sort of dip on Thursday last week, but basically sideways on XLI, which I would imagine would affect the Dow similarly. Let's take a look at the small caps. Small caps, the Russells. The Russell 2000. So the Russell 2000 is also doing that similar sideways move since, last Thursday. We had that big dip down and a really nice recovery, and now we're going sideways again. So unless we break out of this channel, right, you're looking at 25.27, let's say on the low side, high side 25.55. But if we don't hold this level, there is quite a ways down that we could drop, which we did last Thursday. So that's something. But let's see what it looks like on the hourly. If we zoom out to the hourly, and again on the hourly, we have all three channels pointing up. So it's promising, but that also means that you can see we're pretty close to the top, right? When you look, we're pretty close to this 25.50 level, right? We're in the 25.40s, and we haven't gone above there in a long time. So once you break out through there, it can then continue, right? And so when I zoom out to the 4 hour, you see the big value area gap, and that huge distance between where we were at around 26.70. So now we're going to see if we can break through here and go back up to the highs. Or do we pull back and go back down to the lows? This is all the dilemma that we have as a trader. Now, looking at the news and the different cycles, you would hope that we would be able to break through and continue this trend. But I would say if you're looking at the 4 hour chart, my channel 3, look at this. It's very sideways. So although we've had several days, like 2 weeks basically, of an upward market in the Russell, and I say upward, but it's not really upward because it went sideways here, right? We started down here, so it was upward, but when you zoom out and look at it, we were not upward. Okay, so now what? Okay, so now we are going to take a look at, let's go back to here. Where did I go? Okay, so let's take a look at crypto, just see what it did overnight, because I think that is going to be interesting. So 4 hour chart on Bitcoin, you could see we had that really precipitous fall from last, let's say November. We were up in the hundreds, and now we're down here in the 60s, and we're holding 65 on the bottom side, right? So we've got a support here of around 65, 66,000. And on the top side, we're looking for about 70,000 again to break or to pull over 70,000 before we would see any sort of recovery. So, if we come in, zoom into the 15-minute, and you can see yesterday we had a nice big pump up to 70,000. I guess everyone was hoping that we would be able to hold, and we rejected the 70,000. We bounced back down. We're coming down to the meat, and I wouldn't be surprised if we, aim or target that 67.5 area again today. So we might have some more room to come down. It depends how violent the moves are. Right now, we're all three channels are pointing downward. So, there's looks like another possible 1.5% that it could slip. Let's take a look at gold, silver, copper. That's all fun stuff now. Gold, silver, and copper. So now gold has been going sideways. We did have this really nice upward trend, and now you could see since Thursday it broke that trend and it's been going sideways. We've been ranging between, on the low side for gold, about 46.50, and on the high side we're coming up to about 4,726. So we're really very mid-range right now. We're at 46.80. I don't have a trade here, but let's see what else we've got. Let's see silver, right? Now silver is doing a very similar move. Silver is going sideways. It has a bottom of around 71.80, and the high ranges around 73 right now. That's just the past several days. If we don't break out of this area, if we break out of this area, we could hit a low of 69, or we can go back up to the 75s again. Really, it's anybody's guess, and it's a very tight range that we're trading. We don't have directionality. You could see on the daily chart, we are long-term up, and there is a lot of support at 70 for silver. So I would say around 70 would be a buy, and then I would look, to continue upwards from there. If we did the same thing for gold and zoomed out and wanted to do a long-term buy on gold, the scary part for me is that we're at this value area gap. So when you see here on the chart at around 4,600 to around 5,000, there's a big value area gap, which I have marked out in this orange box. Now, I don't know how that's going to take into play the price of gold. It may just zoom like it did here right through it and go back up to the 5,000s, and you're kicking yourself in your butt that you didn't buy gold. On the other hand, channel 1 is still down, and it's targeting like an intersection of about 4,400. Now we've been down here at about 4,400 before, so it's possible that we come back to 4,400 as, like, let's say a support, which would be around this 50% Fibonacci. I wouldn't even be surprised if we did come down to 4,000 before making our way back up to 5,000. Having said that, the last number of sessions we've been on an upward trend, right? So since the 23rd of last month, we've been on an upward trend. We have not broken above 4,800. So I would like to see a break above 4,800 to say that we've maybe changed things around. Zooming in on the hourly, most of the channels are up, so it's a good thing. This could be the turnaround, right? And we had that 4,400 bottom, and it could be on its way back up. I'd be nibbling on it here if I'm buying long term, somewhere around the 4,500 level, 4,400 level, start buying, and just work your way up. Keep adding if it goes down a little bit. It depends. Long term, that would be, I guess, the strategy is if you're gonna, to build the position. Let's take a look at oil. Now, oil is, again, similar story. We have since last 3 weeks, it's been going straight up. We're at 115 on the barrel for oil. I don't know that we're going to stay up here. This is long-term unsustainable, so we'll probably pull back. Let's take a look at like ExxonMobil, just as an idea of what's going on And you can see ExxonMobil, it's playing a very similar path with oil. Um, let's look at Chevron. Chevron's also doing the same sort of thing. And it looks like it's poised to recover. Let's take a look at XLE, because that would be the energy index, and you can see it has a very nice track, similar to what the other companies like Chevron, ExxonMobil were doing. And if we look at that, and then quickly look at oil again, we can see that there was this sort of similar pattern here. Last few days, though, last few sessions, the market really pumped. No pun intended, actually. The market pumped up, right? But I don't see that Chevron, let's say, did, or that ExxonMobil like really pulled. Oh, but ExxonMobil did a little bit more, right? Yeah, it pulled up a little bit, but you could trade XLE on that, or you could trade. Uh, this looks pretty good, ExxonMobil, but my concern is if I'm looking at ExxonMobil, 165 looks like a resistance for it. So unless you break over 165, then you can continue to go up. But if not, you'll reject and come back down to 160, 158, 158 level. You can see that there. All right, let's take a look at Amazon. What's Amazon doing? Amazon's down a little bit, like $1 overnight, but not bad. So let's look at the 1 hour, and you see that we bounced off of 197. That happened over the weekend, and then we're back at the 215 level we've been trying to hold. Let's zoom out on the daily, and you could see that we had a major pullback. That Amazon was at 255 in November, October, and now November, and now it's all the way down here in the 200s, 210s. It's coming back. I think it's coming back. Amazon has such a great story. I'd be looking for entries into Amazon, anywhere in this 203, 205 area. So maybe a little bit less than where we are now, and then look to ride that up. If we break below, let's say 200, there's a big precipitous fall, and it could really dump from there down to like 185. So you're going to want to watch those levels long term, but I think Amazon, it has some potential. And I've been trading this ETF AMZP, which tracks Amazon and pays a little dividend at the same time. And you could see, you could just it's just trading in this range. So this very similar. You could buy it around 22.62, and the top is 23.93. So that's nice, and you get a little dividend every week. Last week was not so big, 35 cents. Before that was 50 cents per share, but not bad on a $23 stock, right? Let's look at SMCI. SMCI is having a really tough go. I think they have issues with supply concerns. So SMCI has pulled back over the year. It's down. If we look at SMCI on the weekly chart, you could see we're hovering right at support, which is about $20. If we don't hold here, you can really fall precipitously down to about $9. I don't think it's going to happen, but you never know. We did really pump up only since 23, right? You could see that before that, in 22 and before, nobody even knew Supermicro was alive. So I'm not really confident, too much in Supermicro's history, because I don't know why they pumped up like this. If this is just an AI play and computing play, do they deserve to be this high? And they're so far below their weekly trend line. It's a little scary. I don't know if I want to play with it too much, but here you are. You have a big value area gap going up. You're kind of on the bottom side of where they are in the last several sessions. So it might be an interesting play if you see it, in the $22 range, like we are, and then, you buy and hold is what I would look to do. If I'm looking at SMCI, I want to look at Micron. I like Micron as a company better, just the memory and whatever. They've had a much better trend. And, if you look at their yearly chart, it looks better. If you look at their weekly chart, it looks better. But they did go parabolic, right? And this is all about this memory chip shortage created by AI. So if you're playing in this area, you want to be careful. And that would be my take on that. Look at this. I just want to say, look at this candle. Do you see this long, long wick on the bottom? That's a really bullish candle, right? If we were telling a story, the story would go, people are buying, people are buying, people are buying. And now people want to take profit, right? So they start selling, they oversell. And the buyers then come in and push the price back up. And so you then see the price start to continue and go back up. But we have to be careful, right? Because it could form different patterns from there. If you were looking at the Wyckoff method or the Dow method, I think you have the various phases, but basically it goes up and then it comes back down. And you want to be careful of that. So this looks like a very high peak. Like we went up, we rejected that peak, we got pushed down all the way too far. Now we're back toward this middle area. I think we can go back to that 435 level though. So let's look a little closer in on the 1 hour on Micron. And now you could see that in the last number of sessions, we've been on an upward trend. We're actually pointing towards that 430 level that I was saying on the wider chart. Everything is aligning to go up from there. So Micron does look sort of interesting. They do on the hourly have this magnet at around 370, which we're just above. Actually, we pulled back to 370 right now. Overnight, we were at 377 before. So we're at this magnet of the value area. And if we don't hold here, we have this orange level below us, which I marked out as kind of like a danger zone, right? Let me activate this drawing, and I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, but you could see that's where 364 is support for this. If we dip down there, it could really go bad. So I want to see us hold at this 350, 360. If it goes below there, this is just it's very scary because you're looking at channels 2 and 3. They're pointing straight down, right? And then channel 1 is our recovery, and we're holding above it on the 4 hour, so it's a good sign, right? So I'm gonna say today we're looking at 365 on the bottom, and then on the top 432. So that's where I would be targeting on that if I was trading Micron. Now, what am I trading? Let's take a look at some things on the watch list. These are some things that I want to. These are like those things you want to own, not the things you own. But like I want to own Google. I think long term they're going to do well, or I think long term, Corning will do well. That's the idea of this watch list, and so we can look and see what's doing well, and maybe make a good idea from there. So if I'm just gonna sort this a little bit by the 40-day column here, and I'm looking for things that are on an upward trend, so all green across the board would kind of give you that story, and so Nebius is telling a good story, targeting 120. They have a decent level of momentum. They are strongly positive on the 50 over the with the 5200 mark. So let's take a look at what does Nebius look like and see if it's a good buy. So on the daily, I would look for a buy of Nebius in the 87 range, and I would be selling in the 125 range. Let's take a look a little closer in on the 15-minute and see what that looks like. So Nebius has had a very strong trend, and they're going sideways right now. Last session, so they hit a 113, they came down to 109. They're heading back up. I think they didn't break over the trend line, and channels 1 and 2 are pointing down on the 15-minute. Let's look better on the hourly, and you can see it's really pointing up. We're at a level of support, kind of around 107. I'd say is where there's more support. And if we're breaking over the trend line here, this has the potential then now to go up. I wouldn't be upset if you bought at 110 and held to 115 on a trade, or if it breaks down, then you're looking at 107 on a put and down. I don't think we looked at Tesla. Now Tesla's off really bad today. It's down $10 already. I say already, and it's pushing low on the hourly. We have all three channels pointing down. Tesla is not making a very pretty picture. We're at the top of this value area. We traversed this value area gap, and we're pointing down towards 315 on Tesla, which would be a very big move, another 10% haircut. They do have earnings, but not yet, right? That's April 22nd. That's still a little bit away. But we traversed this value area gap, which we identified. So let me just duplicate this drawing so you could see we had marked out this value area gap, and it's really kind of where we went right down to. Now, the problem is that when you're at the top of a value area, which we are now at 350, right? You tend to traverse and bounce around this value area. So I suspect we have more room to go down before we go back up on any sort of Tesla play. Now, you zoom out on Tesla, just you could see we've had a very strong support trend line going up since the beginning of 24. In 24, it was at 130. It's pumped its way back up to 350. Can it continue to go back up? It's had these very violent moves in the past. So in the past, where it's like peaked at around 490, it pulled all the way back to 308. Now we went to 500, so maybe we don't pull back quite as far, but 350 is at least where we are. And then you can see there is a level of trade. There's a lot of trading in this level area here between 300 and 348. So I would not be surprised if we do target that 300 on the hourly. We're right at that bottom for the hourly. So let's go back. Let me just look at the 4-hour real quick. Yeah, you can see 300 looks like it's pointing. All three channels are pointing down to 320. Okay, now let's take a look at see if there's anything in natural gas while we're looking. We have 1 minute till the open. Let's see what happens. Natural gas is at 286, and you can see on the hourly chart just how far down that is. Zooming in on the 15-minute, you could see that it's been trading this level, 277, all the way up to about 290. And we're coming close to that 290. Do we break over this? I don't know. But if we do, then we're back up to the $3 range. And that could be some nice money. But, you know, again, I like trading ranges, and we're at the top of this range. So I don't know. Unless it breaks out, I'm not buying natural gas right now. Okay. So now let's see, what else do we have? Markets just opened, and the NASDAQ is playing around at around 24,280. Let's see if it's holding. These are all down about 0.25% now. We were down more before the market opened. So now let's see, what else do we have that's opening salvo. Let's get a little closer look at the S&P this morning. Zoom in. We're not doing a whole lot yet. Let's see if we don't set the range for the day. So we're looking at a range of 66.17. We're holding at 66.30, and you can see we're at the top of this little value area, this mini value area. Do we come back down, or do we break above it? It looks like we're pulling down. Looks like we're pulling down to the 66.15. Yep. Here we go. Just as I suspected. Now let's see. Do we have any new leads today? Not yet. On the buy list today, Corning is down. Apple's down. Lilly's down. Nvidia's down. Apple's down 2%. That's a lot for Apple. Corning is down. I like Corning as a long-term buy, a long-term hold. On the flip side, AAOI is up 3%. And LITE, COHR, those are all photonics plays. So making the communications of the different computers systems more efficient and faster. Now it's interesting, Lockheed Martin is down, even though we're talking about more war. Sienna is down. I'm surprised, given that AAOI and LITE and COHR are up. Alcoa is up. That's aluminum. And let's see, how are we doing in some other areas? Copper is off about 1% on ERO copper. Let's see what FCX is doing. Freeport McMoran is off about 0.5%. I guess this is kind of like to be expected with a little bit of the volatility. Let's take a look at what the copper futures are doing, and you could see they're down about 0.25%. So it makes sense that Freeport and ERO are pulling back as well. Let's take a look at a couple of other things like USAS. America's Gold and Silver, they're off about 1/3%, but they do have potential to run up. It's an inexpensive stock, so if you want to play with something, this is something you can play with. It's about $5.50 right now, $5.40. It's something that you can definitely consider playing with, and I think it could be fun to play with, because I think gold and silver are gonna do better, right? So if we zoom out, um, we're at 546. It was at 10. It was double. My scanner picked this up and said, "Hey, take a look at this. You have your long-term trend is up, your short-term trend is down, and they're meeting at this intersection. So, 461 would have been an ideal entry on this, but this is what the story is telling me. 4 hour, again, you see the trend was down. We had support at 470, and now we're at this magnet of about 540, right? So if gold and silver recover from here, it does have the path to go back up. What else do we take a look at today? EPR Properties is coming up. They've been kind of flat, and so I noticed they had a dividend coming, and I think I bought it around the dividend time to catch the dividend, and then I'm looking for it to recover and work its way back up. It's around 47, about 48 on the bottom, let's say. Right now we're at 51, which is still on the lower side of things. If we're looking for a target of about 57, I'm not looking for like tons and tons of money on this one. It's just kind of been steady and providing some dividend while the rest of the economy is going sideways or whatever. So I've been looking for ways that I can kind of make a little bit of money while the market is trying to figure out what it's doing. Um, let's see, Ben. So Ben came up on one of my scans, and I see that we have the potential to recover. Ben Franklin Investments, their bottom is around 2280. Yeah, and I would see 24. Well, actually, if it breaks 24, then it has a lot of room to go back up. We're at 23 right now. We're at that magnet, you could see on the value area. So I'm not sure that I would say buy here, but it's not a bad idea, right? We're at this value area and there's a big gap up. If it's turning around here and I look at the 1 hour and I think I see just sideways movement with a potential for a recovery, it's not a bad play. So 23 in the bottom here, and then definitely 24 is possible. So you have about $1 there. So you could, if you're buying shares, it's easy to trade the shares on leverage, and then a lot of times you don't even have any sort of fee, right? So you could just leverage your way there and scrape by a few dollars at a time. We're looking at ONDS is going up today. It's about up 1%. And Western Union as well. So let's look at the banks. Western Union is up a little bit. Let's take a look at XLF. So the financials are basically down 0.5% today. Financials have had this range again on the top side of about 50 and the bottom side 48. So it's right now we're at 49.59 on financial. That doesn't look great. Let's look at Citibank. Citibank is down about 0.8%. They do have a strong trend up. They are still above their trend line on the hourly, so that's sort of a good sign. And it looks like it can continue. I want to take a look at Capital One Finance. I'd like to see them down at around 177 for a buy, and then sell Capital One Finance, closer to 186 level, 187. They do have a strong trend up. So, if we're going to say that the financials, in total are going to go up, then we're looking for things like JP Morgan to continue up. And you could see they're just going sideways. Wow, look at that. Very little range, 292 on the bottom, 296 on the top. Not a whole lot of space. Let's look at Goldman Sachs. Also sideways, really sideways. Wow, that doesn't make sense. Let's see. Yeah, that's what it's doing, right? Okay, so Goldman Sachs on the bottom side, we're looking for 753 as an entry. We're at 855 right now. We're at the top of we're actually at the bottom of this value area. I should say, let me correct myself. We're at the bottom of this value area, although we have earnings coming up. We're over the trend line on the daily. That's actually not a bad place. So I mean, I see on the hourly we're really tight, but this does have the room, this does have room if we zoom out for a reversal. But I would try to get in a little bit lower than we are now. We're at 857. We're down 1% for the day. On the 4 hour, we're not coming down to the 800s. I wouldn't suspect we'd get down below there, like 750. I could see it happening on the news event, maybe earnings. It doesn't like it. Who knows? But it does seem to be pretty steady. So long term, they probably are going to go up to like 950. But this is it's a hard one. When I look at this and I'm like, I don't know. I think with this, you kind of have to figure, you have to wait and see. Either it comes down and you buy, or I think it's just going a little bit sideways with the financials. I don't know. Financials are doing well in general. I'd say, if we were looking at sectors right now, it's, energy has been leading. XLE has been the leader. We did pull back. We looked at that earlier. And then if you look at XLK, which would be the technology one, really a lot of sideways movement, sort of pulling back down to the 128 level. We're at 135 right now. XLK is all of the NVIDIA, Google, Microsoft, Oracle, Palo Alto, all of those are in XLK, and that's what's really moving XLK. So if we see recovery in the tech market, then we would see recovery in XLK, and that would then, translate back to the NASDAQ. Let's see what the NASDAQ is doing. It's been open for a little bit this morning already. We're at 942. Let's go into the 1 minute. And by now, we've already set the range of the day so that you could see that, the bottom range is 24,196. And on the top side, we're at 24,305. So chances are what we're going to look for is I don't want to trade in this zone. What I do want to trade is on the outside of those zones. So if we break below 24.2, if we go below 24.2, it's a short for the day. If we go above 24.257, then it's maybe long for the day. So let's see what it does. Right now, we're sort of in the middle. I'm not trading this area because it's going to bounce in between here, and I don't see anything that I want to take right now. Let's look at the S&P and see what the S&P is doing. So the S&P already broke below the range of the day. It's at the pretty much the bottom here. I would look for us to continue possibly short, although you could see on the RSI, we're sort of oversold. Channels 2 and 3 are pointing up. Channel 1 is pointing down. That would be the indication of some sort of reversal if it was on the 1 minute, but I don't really trade the 1 minute that way. The 1 minute I trade just by using the opening range. Let's zoom out a little bit on the 5 minute, and you can see, again, that range is, we're at the bottom of this range. It has more potential to go down than it does to go up just because of, where we are on that range. So I'm going to target 6,600 on the S&P. Let's take a look at SPY and see what that translates to. I would say short SPY, and you're targeting 650, 653, 69 as a target. We're at 655 right now, but again, I'd like to see a little bit of a bump up before it going back down. Because right now we're just sitting at like levels, right? And we didn't break anything yet. So I'm not ready to sell here, but I do think that this is going down. So um, it does. You could potentially just short the market here and hold it for a little bit and do a very quick day trade. Hmm. So on some of my scans, what do I have? Do I have any good scans coming? Nothing is feeding in yet on the scanner. Take a look at the sectors for a moment. And we're just going to scan the sectors and see what's happening. So you could see building materials down 0.5%. Communications is off by 0.25%. Communications would be the Google and Verizon and AT&T, Comcast, T-Mobile. I like them. I think at 111, it's an interesting buy. We're at some sort of support. Let's take a little bit more of a look at XLC and see what's going on the bigger chart with XLC. On the 5-minute, we're closing in on the range, the entry range I'd like to see of about 110, 111. On the hourly, that looks appropriate. I think we're looking pretty good. We have channel 1 and 2 are pointing up with a possible target of about 113 on the hourly. And if we go to the daily, then you have about 117 on the top. So it's not a huge range right now. We are still in a downtrend, sort of sideways downtrend. So I don't have a ton of confidence in where it's going to go, but I don't think we're going out of business if you're looking at Google. So long term, I like this. I think 110 entry, and you look to go long at about 1 to 119 and continue from there. So let's look back at the sectors. Energy, XLE, we're holding at about 60. Financials and energy, I think a similar story. We're above that trend line on the hourly. We might have that recovery, right? We're above 59 as a entry level, and you have 64 as a target. So XLE looks pretty interesting. We're up 1% on energy today. Financials are down about 0.5%, and they definitely have room to come down some more. You could see, let's say, they're at support right now at 49.67. If they don't hold here, then I think they go back down to about 49. XLK Technology, I think they pull back to about 135 if they don't hold this. I mean 134.58 if they don't hold the 135.50 level. On the upside, they can go back up to 140 if things go right. And then you have consumer staples, and I get confused. I don't remember what one is consumer staples and consumer supplies. XLP is down 0.7. XLY is down 1.5. XLI industrials is down 163. Utilities is off 0.1%. That's really interesting. At 46, utilities looks like a really good entry to go long, but you don't have a lot of room. Healthcare pulled back a lot over the days. It's down. I like entries on healthcare at about 144, 143. You can see we're at 145 right now, and we have the potential then to reverse back up to the 150. So we're towards the bottom of that range. Real estate, we're at 41.5, off again about 0.75%. I see a bottom there of about 40, and then an entry there at 40 to go back up to about 43. So you do have a nice range on real estate. Plus, it gives you a little bit of a dividend, right? So we're looking at we're looking at a market that is trying to find what it wants to do today. The S&P and the Nasdaq were both pulling back earlier, and you could see it in the indexes. The only index that's up at the moment is energy, although utilities is about to break up and go positive for the day. So I think utilities might work. XLC communications looks like it might have the potential to also reverse today. And let's see, SPY is down still about 0.5%. The Russell's down again, still about 0.75%. Diamonds about also the same as SPY, 0.7, and NASDAQ is down as well, 0.8%. We're just kind of holding that support level. We're at, this 583 on the NASDAQ. Look, 582.55 is where I have support. We're at 583.55. So we have $1 down on the Qs to go. And then I think on SPY even, we have more room to go. We have another $1 on SPY to go down. On the Russell, I think, we're at about a support here, but we do have that magnet at 248, which would bring, which we're, I don't know, I can't see where I am on the camera, but the Russell's at 250 right now, and I see a bottom of about 248 on the Russell. Coming back to the sectors, let's see what's happening here. Copper is holding. Solana is holding at 78. 78 is an interesting level for Solana. It's been holding that level. The euro is back at 1.16. When it was at 1.15, I said it's going to come back to this 1.16 range. So it's a matter of sometimes just holding through these levels. You can see. Now, the tick was high earlier before the market opened. It dropped. It's down minus 200. That's not a big move. But what is a big move is that the VIX jumped up 8% to 26. It was really pulling back to 24. That was a good sign. When the VIX hits about in the 30s, that's when you see the markets going crazy. Everything's pulling back, and it's a good sign to buy. It's scary because everything's going down, but that's actually the best time to buy. In the 20s, you're sort of in that mid-range, and it can go anywhere. So you could expect the market to dip when it's in the 20s and potentially continue that dip versus when it's in the 30s or 40s. When it zooms up that high, the market tends to correct quickly afterward. So we're not great with the VIX. This is a huge move up, though. If you were trading the VIX, 8% in one day is crazy, right? All right, what are we doing on the tick? We're a little bit flat on the tick. Let's see. How are we doing on those levels? IWM is at 250. We're still at 655 on SPY, and the diamonds are holding at 464 and 584. We're holding on the Qs. Now, I said we were going to come down to 584 before. I have that level marked out about 582.57, and that looks like where we might be going on the NASDAQ. So let's take a look. Yeah, let's take a look. What's Tesla doing? Tesla pulled back 2.5%. That's not good. So we're clearly at that 344 level, and we're continuing down this range to 316 as a target. So that is really kind of bad. Let's see some of the other ones. Let's look at NVIDIA. What's NVIDIA doing this morning? We're down about 1%, holding at 176, which is where we have that level marked out as support. What's Microsoft doing? Microsoft is at 370, holding this level. It's pointing downward. I don't like where it is, but At the same token, if we're looking at the daily, and we're kind of flat on the daily, let's look at the weekly on Microsoft. Maybe it tells a different picture. And you could see we came down to this support, which we had, marked out earlier. Again, this long trend line that's been holding, I'd expect it to recover from here. So 360 to 370 is a buy on Microsoft, looking for it to go long-term up. Short-term, it can continue to pull back a little bit more to 340. That is a possibility. But I think it's looking for that reversal now. And you can see that there was a little bit of a dip down, and last couple sessions it's trying to recover. We don't have a recovery signal, so I'm not saying we're there yet, but it's trying. It's definitely trying. Let's look at Oracle. Oracle's also off about 1% today. Let's take a look a little bit wider on the weekly chart, and you can see what Oracle's doing. It did a very similar thing to Microsoft. It was at 350, pulled back to 140. And I think it's going to continue going back up, but we're at below this trend line. It's, you're really buying the dip here, right? This is the dip buy. We do have a dividend coming up. So that's nice on the 9th. So you have another day to buy this if you want to buy some Oracle before the dividend and try to take advantage of the dip. Okay. I don't have enough data yet for stock picks for the day, but Ben is going up. What else did we want to look at today? Some of the things that we've been tracking again was Solana. Let's see what Solana's doing. It's at 79. I think the low today was around 78.5. This is a very interesting place to buy it. If we think that crypto will hold, like if I look at Bitcoin, what's Bitcoin doing? It's holding at like 65 level, 66 level. If we're going to hold here, Solana looks like it has the potential to reverse. Now, the question is, what do you buy? Do you buy Bitcoin, or do you buy Solana, or do you buy like Ethereum? Right? Ethereum is right at that 2000 level. It dipped below 2000 for a moment, and on the 2nd, in February. Now it's back a little bit above 2000. It seems like we hold 2000, then come back to the 3000 range if we do reverse out of here. Channels 1 is positive. Everything else is negative on the 4-hour chart. On the 1-hour chart, better entry would be closer to 2000, right? So we're looking for it to continue to come down today before it reverses. So maybe an entry of around 2000, as close as you can get, and then you look for it to go long from there. Okay, what else do we want to take a look at? Because we see we have these things pulling back. Basically, everything is pulling back and hard. Let's take a look, except at the euro. What's the euro doing? So the euro is pulling up, and it's reaching this intersection on the hourly, which you could see is also sort of a resistance level of 1.16. So I'm not sure if we break above this level if we break above where we are here, like if you just buy it right here and hold for a minute, do we continue up to the 1.164? Maybe. And then that's showing a stronger euro. I like the fact that we're already positive for the day, so maybe we have some sort of continuation to look for. Now, let's see what else is going on today. Google is down just a little bit. Google's under 300. It's at 299. It's been holding this 299 level as a support. I'd like to see it hold here. If it doesn't, we're down. I mean, we're not down really for the day on Google. It's at 0.2% down. But I'd like to see it hold here. If it doesn't, then we have the potential to go down another few dollars to 293.91. I have marked out 294, or lower than the 290. What's SPY doing? We're still holding that 654 level. Let's zoom back into the 1 minute. Yep. We had set the level 655 before, and it pulled back up to 655, and now it's on its way back down. So that would have been the entry right there. See, it went down, pulled back up to the line, and now it's going down again. And so you have your entry here, and you could short this. So that's the short today on SPY. I want to pull up Ben for a second again, because I thought Ben was doing better. Ben pulled back a little bit. Ben was up this morning, now he's down. I think he needs to take a nap so he can get up again. Let's take a look at glitter. What's glitter doing? Glitter's off about 1%. It's at 213. On the hourly, glitter has support at 205. So I would look for us to pull back on glitter to 205. Now, that's going to depend. Like if gold continues to pull back to 4,500, then glitter will pull back as well. And that's, I think, what we're looking for. So we're right now gold is going sideways. It's at the value area. I don't see it moving anything different. All right. Meta is off today about 0.75%. It's at 568. Meta had a nice big jump up to the 580s after it pulled all the way down to 517. I think it pulls back to about 550 before it goes long again. But, we'll have to see what happens. Okay, what do we have? What else do we want to look at right now? Let's look at Moody's, MCO. What's Moody's doing? MCO is off a little bit, about 1/3%. They're at 440. If we look at Moody's on the weekly chart, you could see 430 is sort of a support for Moody's, and then they have a lot of green sky above them. So they have a very strong trend, and on any pullback, they've really recovered. So Moody's is sort of an interesting long-term buy, I would say. And if I was going to chart this out, I'm looking to find where it kind of like matches that trend, and I think that looks like it matches the trend there. So we're near a support level for Moody's. It might be interesting to add some Moody's to your portfolio at about 4. I would like to add it at about 430. It's at 440 right now, but that would be one of those interesting buys. What else do we got? All right, let's take a look at Regeneron maybe. Regeneron is at 753. They bounced off of this lower levels of support of 444. They were at 1200. I mean, that's crazy. Look at that move. Anyway, they're back in the 750s. I see 830 as on the range high and on the range low. 730, we're at 750 right now. Zooming in on the 1 hour, again, I'm looking for 730 as an entry to go long. 750, yeah, anywhere below 750. So if you're below 750, 747, I would say is an ideal entry to go long on Regeneron, and that's sort of an interesting play on that. What else do we have? Let's look at BN Brookfield. Brookfield's off about 1%. They're holding at 40. I would recommend getting in closer to the 38 range, and we're looking at a target of about 48. So about 20% higher than we are now. You could see we had a big RSI push below here. Again, entry is about 38 long. 48 is the target. So this would be long-term investment. We're not on the daily, we're not above the trend line. So let it come down before I think you add to this position or go into the position. Lilly, let's take a look at Lilly. Lilly is down 2.5% to 905. This is very interesting. Now you can see on the daily, they're lining up with support and entry at about 857, which would be the bottom of this value area. So what does that mean for us? Lilly is at 900 on the daily. This is let's zoom in. You could see that there's a level of support here that we've just been crashing down. Again, we're at 905 right now. We zoomed right through this value area gap, and we're now aiming for the bottom of this value area, which I think it looks like we bounced off of on Lilly. And then if we don't hold 875, it has the potential to continue down. But I think we hold 875. I would say, let's say you look for a target entry of about anywhere between 875 and 890 long term. On the 1 hour, channels 2 and 3 are positive. So this pullback to 900 is an interesting entry to go long, right? So if you can get below 900 entry on Lilly, that would be an interesting play, I think. But again, it's a long term. Now, you don't have to spend $900 to buy one share if you're using something like some of these platforms like Thinkorswim. I don't know if Thinkorswim does it, but I know Robinhood does it. Lets you buy fractional shares, so you could buy a part of Lilly. Like you could buy $100 worth of Lilly. You don't have to buy $900 worth of Lilly if you wanted. I have some concerns with the crypto stocks because they have not been because crypto has not been performing well. But does that mean that you hold them and accumulate? Maybe, I'm not sure. But you look at things like IREN and not doing so well, right? We're getting really beat up on IREN. They're down 5.5% today. Oh, they're just killing me. They're really killing me, IREN. Because why? I don't know why. Because crypto. That's why. So what else is happening today that we want to take a look at? Interesting. Okay, so we're starting to pull up a couple of ticker symbols on my scanner. This is one of them, SVC Properties Real Estate. They're at $1.27. They're off 2.5% today. I would say their bottom is closer to $1.15. On the 1 hour chart, they've been really going down, but they're trying to recover here. Let's look at the daily on them. They were in the $2.50, $3 range. RSI numbers are pushing up. They bounced off of the $1 a couple days ago. They bounced off of that. I don't know. I think they come back down a little bit to this 120 unless they could break over it. Um, it's a real estate. They're totally oversold. They're almost flat for the year. Everything is bearish about them. But what does that mean? I don't know. Let me just see if they have any sort of like dividend or something that maybe I can give you a little more information. They have a 2% dividend. It's not a very big dividend. The main thing is that it's a REIT, and it's not a closed end, I don't think. So they have the potential to recover. They've been losing money. They have not been doing that well. So I don't know about them. Let's see. Let's look at GE Aerospace. Now this also came up on my scan. I like GE Aerospace. They're down 1.7% today. And they have support at around 280. We're at 283 right now, so this looks good. They have earnings coming up in April 21st, I think. So we've got a little time till earnings. If you wanted to trade them, let's zoom into the hourly, and you can see 280 is where they're holding their bottom. Let's see if they pull back to 280. I'd buy GE. I think that's great long term. And then you make a trade plan, right? And you're looking for your entries and your exits. If it doesn't hold 280, if it breaks below 270, you got to sell and take your loss. If it continues, right? So where do you take profit? You start taking profit when it hits 326 and you take a little profit there. U.S. Energy Corp is also coming up on my scan. Let's see if there's any reason for that. I don't like the trend on this one. It's below $1. I am not a player. Let's go back to SPY and see what SPY is doing. 652. We're continuing to push down as I suspected. So, of course, when the market pulls back, that's always a pretty good day to buy stuff to go long if you think the market's going to recover. And I'm not convinced it's not going to recover from here. Let's wait till later in the day, maybe to buy. I don't know. Depends what you're looking for. But I don't have any major buys yet coming up on my scan. There were some the other day. I was looking at a few positions, but some of them they just pulled back. So we can look for other entries. I'm gonna hold them for now, right? Just see. But what else we have up and running today? Yep. And that's it for this morning. Thank you for joining me. I had a great time talking with everybody and sharing the news and enjoying the opportunity to spend time with you. So thanks and have a great day. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share it with your friends so that we can all trade together and make some money. Thanks.